This is Chad, aka Grease Monkey 2000, with Misfire, my 2001 NB2 with the 1.8 liter motor and 5-speed manual transmission. It is a base model, so unfortunately no limited slip. I've had it now just over 3 years and haven't done a lot to it, but I've really enjoyed my time with Misfire, and I'm just going to go over the modifications to date. So let's start at the rear, I guess, of the car. Have a Blackbird Fabworks Lexan spoiler black edition. Big thanks to Ben, aka not Ben H, for holding on to that for over a year, I believe. Let me make payments on it. It was really nice of you. Miata community is full of such great people. I feel really fortunate to know so many of y'all, and we try to help each other out when we can. But you might notice that the taillights are actually NB1 taillights, and I have modified them with 120 millimeter chips on board LED halo rings, red for running lights. A lot of people that do this modification like to do it for brake lights. I personally thought the most striking visual appeal was with it as a running light. I also have 80 millimeter amber chips on board halo rings for the turn signals. I could turn those on real quick. I still currently have the factory incandescent bulbs hooked up just so it doesn't have hyper flash, but in time I'm gonna unhook the incandescent bulbs and just run the halo rings for the turn signals. I personally just like the look of the NB1 tail lights with the amber lens versus the NB2, and have a fairly aggressive rear bumper cut. I wasn't planning on originally doing it square cut, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense, because I plan on doing a rear diffuser, so I was going to try to integrate that. Obviously I can take more off if I want in the future. It also has a Racing Beat Power Pulse twin tip muffler that was already on it when I got the car. And then one of the additions you can see is a Gubin Racing power plant frame brace that I had custom powder coated in sun gold, which is actually very similar to Beat Rush's color they use. Not really, that wasn't the reason I picked the color, I just happened to like it and I plan on using it elsewhere. Another small thing that I think really makes a difference are the LED license plate lamps. I got these on eBay for like $10 shipped. Right now I think they're $15, $16, but they kind of double as trunk lights, because when you open up the trunk it helps light that up. But let me see, the fuel lid, I did that myself. It was just a run-of-the-mill chrome fuel lid like you see on so many Miatas. I took it, kind of stripped it. It is an actual chrome finish, so there's multiple layers to it. Kind of just wanted to leave like a brush finish, and then I got some carbon fiber and made the center lid part, and then Rev Limiter made the fuel insert for me. I wasn't originally going to have that piece of aluminum overlay. I actually kind of messed up the cutout for the fuel insert, but it worked out really well actually, because this way it's modular and pieces can be replaced if damaged. And then decided to use some burnt titanium bolts just to kind of make it pop a little bit. It has, I guess, what would be called the small Tupperware package. The side skirts and the rear mud flaps, which I've contemplated removing both. You can definitely tell a difference after driving it with the rear mud flaps versus the front. But time will tell if I keep those or not. I have the Project G vent windows. These are really fantastic. To me, they move just the right amount of air. And of course, they can be rotated 360 degrees. I had a carbon Miata vented wind on the driver's side, and it moved a lot of air. But unfortunately, it also made a lot of noise, air noise, because obviously, since it rotates in and out, you know, there was more mating surfaces and obviously more places for air to get in. Both of them will let in a little water. The carbon Miata piece a little bit more, again, just because there's more openings. But both of them, basically, you got to either have pressurized water to get it in there with it closed, or a pretty hard rain. Otherwise, it does fine. I did a single wiper. I think it's the driver's side on the passenger side mount, and it basically covers the portion that you see from that point on. Long term, I want to redo the linkage so that it stands vertical, but still gets at least that much of the windshield, if not all of it. But no immediate plans, just whenever I get the time and inclination. The wheels currently are Inky RPF 1s, and a 14x7 plus 19, and a featherweight weight 8.6 pounds, shot in some Falcon Asness RT 615K pluses, and a 195 6014. They're actually at the end of their life, and these wheels are actually have just been sold to another enthusiast. And I got a stellar deal on some 15x10 6ULs with BFG rivals. And unfortunately, I failed to recall that you can't run those with stock coilovers. The stock springs are too wide. I think they're 2 3/4 inches. Either way, you got to have no bigger than 2.5 inch springs to run those wheels. So unfortunately, stock 5 spokes with all seasons are going to go on until I have the money for some coilovers. That really stinks, but it's such a good deal I couldn't pass it up. I also went to LED. Low beam headlights is a Katana LED kit. Not much more than quality halogen bulbs. And these have pretty good reviews online. And then the headlights, I've opened up and blacked out the housing, and unfortunately I got to refinish them again. You can see the passenger side starting to fog up again. In the front, you can see there is a intercooler. More on that later. Then a big, nice, healthy dent that fellow commuter decided to throw out a huge chunk of ice on the highway, and it nailed Misfire right on the nose. So we gotta get that fixed one day. And I believe that's it for the exterior. So why don't we go ahead and pop the hood, and we'll have a look under the hood. I haven't done a lot in this department either, but it did come with a Jackson Racing M45 supercharger, 45 cubic inch supercharger already on it. The stock supercharger pulley, but it does have a Track Dog Racing 150 millimeter crank overlay, so it makes about 9 psi. It also has a Track Dog Racing pulley. I cannot remember the name of that now. The bracket with the adjustment pulleys, which my understanding is a big upgrade over the one that came with it. It also has a Track Dog Racing intercooler kit, a DDM Works box. I took the lid off just during the winter to see if I could hear the supercharger much more. I really couldn't. So that's going to go back on since it's getting warm. And you can hear the fans on the LED lights. When the hood's closed, you pretty much don't really hear them. Other than that, I already had what I've come to find out was a CSF racing radiator, aluminum radiator. Must be a rather old one. I've never seen one like this. It has on the suspension a racing beat. I believe it's the 1.125 tubular bar with the brace. And racing beats sway bar end links at the front. It has KYB Excel Gs, which I personally think they're garbage. Only 123,000 miles on the chassis, and I think they're gone. I mean, maybe I'm just spoiled because I've had Fat Cat Motorsports, custom coilovers, and Feel 441 road race coilovers, so quality setups. But I plan on, obviously, I have to now get better different coilovers so I can run the 15x10 6ULs. Also, under the hood, it has a Track Dog Racing header blanket. It has what I believe is a Jackson Racing header on it. I'll find out soon enough. I got to do a throwout bearing, which I'm going to go ahead and do a clutch as well. So I picked up a Super Miata organic clutch, a F1 Racing or FX Racing chromoly lightweight flywheel. It's like 11 something pounds, and some AWR 70 Drometer motor mounts, and they're the drop version, so it lowers the motor 0.3 inches. I had their motor mounts before. I really liked them. These actually have larger bushings, so it's supposed to cut down a little bit more on the NVH. And I guess the only other last thing is it has hood struts, which if you work on your car, definitely get them. Man, that factory hood prop is garbage. Get rid of it. And I guess that's pretty much it under the hood. I'm sorry, I almost forgot my Project G oil dipstick handle. Thanks again. Oh my gosh, I forgot your name now. I want to say Eli. I don't think that's right. Man, I apologize. I know I'll remember your name as soon as this video's over. And Project G oil cap. And I think that is definitely it for under the hood. We'll go into the interior real fast. And it's crazy how fast these videos can get away with you. It has a hard dog, I believe this is the M2 Sport roll bar. It was already on the car, which I would like to go with a larger 1 3/4 instead of the 1.5" roll bar with diagonals and such in the future. I don't know what maker I'm going to go with, or maybe a custom one. Sorry, pull the key out so it's not making a bunch of racket. On the interior, it has a Sparco 310 millimeter. What I bought it as a Extreme 2 steering wheel. I really like it. It's the smallest steering wheel I've ever had, but it really fits the F1 theme I'm going for with this car. It has a Circuit Sports short quick release, and a Works bell. I believe it is 75 millimeter hub, and I did a custom gauge cluster. JC, aka the Real Rice Rocket, did the basic layout on the carbon fiber and laid the carbon fiber himself. I kind of buggered it up a little bit at some of the edges, so it's not perfect, but with the Garage 5 gauge rings, you don't really see many of the flaws. Currently, it has rev limiter fighter gauges, and I can't say enough about his gauges. They're gorgeous. I actually just had a custom set of the F1 Stage 2 gauges made. I'm probably going to wait to install those just because I want to put the lenses on the gauge rings before I install those gauges. I hate to install them and something happen. You may also notice that the tails on both the speedometer and tachometer, I cut those off. And also these holes, that actually does something. Let me get my keys again. That is a shift light that Flying Miata used to sell, and I actually picked it up off Adam, rev limiter. It was pretty easy to wire in. The hardest part was you have to program it, but other than annoying my neighbors for a while when I was programming it, it works great. And that was my shifter you just heard making a bunch of racket. It is a G Racing shifter. It's a one-piece shifter with a carbon fiber integrated tall shift knob. It is a fantastic shifter. I can't say enough about it. The one downside is the rattling. It doesn't rattle all the time under hard acceleration, but once you let off the throttle, it dissipates for the most part. But throws are just fantastic, and there's no vagueness to the gears. Never misses a beat, and the great thing is it eliminates all the shifter rebuild parts. He can turn it down to where if you want to use a OEM shifter bushing, you can. So then the rattling, I would assume, would pretty much go away. I also have a retro modern hazard collar. Man, he makes such fantastic pieces. I plan on getting more parts when some of the bigger ticket items get checked off, like coilovers and such. It already had these chrome HVAC knobs, which I plan on removing, and the trim rings I'm kind of thinking about keeping, actually, now that I have the gauge rings. I mean, they kind of go together. But other than that, I have this incredibly bright Dandak LED light. Thing has got 9 LEDs, but the thing, honestly, is borderline too bright. But for 16 bucks, I mean, I think it's a great value and about all the light you need. And I also have the Mitsubishi clear dome light. Then I have previously already installed was the footwell lights, which I need to get new bezels for them because they're both, one of the tabs are busted, and they're not hooked up right now just because the incandescent bulbs are pointless with that Dandak bulb. So future plans for the car, as I already mentioned, I have some 6UL with 15x10s with 245 BFGs on their way to me, which, like I said, unfortunately are going to have to sit for a couple months until I get the money for coilovers. In the next month or so, I'm going to do the clutch, throwout bearing, flywheel, motor mounts, pull the supercharger, change the oil, do the coupling, and then from there, I'm not sure. Long-term plans, I'd like to do front splitter, rear diffuser, hood vents, fender vents. Again, I have a whole F1 theme going on, and it's honestly probably next to never going to see track time, but being only an hour or so from COTA, I'd certainly like to get some time on COTA, which I just missed. Unfortunately, they had a food drive where if you just donated some food, you got to drive your car on the track. But unfortunately, life didn't cooperate and I didn't make it down there. But besides that, I think I have actually covered it all. I think it possibly has a Walbro fuel pump in it. It's rather noisy. But as far as the supercharger is concerned, I already got a smaller 62.5 millimeter pulley to bump it up. I think that should get it around 11 or 12 if I'm not mistaken. And of course I'll have to get bigger injectors. What I was thinking about doing was going to the yellow RX-8 injectors and just run an E85 for a while. But I would be stuck on E85 since the factory computer can't compensate for over, it's either 305 or 315 cc. Plan also doing methanol injection on the supercharger. Basically, I want to get the most I can out of the setup. A lot of people say it's counterintuitive being a 45 cubic inch and I should go up to the 62, but I like being different, and sometimes being different can bite you, but we'll see. I really enjoy the supercharger. I really thought that after 3 years of ownership or sooner that I would get tired of the supercharger power. I would, get used to it, but I really haven't. I guess the only other thing I forgot is some aftermarket pedal covers for the brake, clutch, and dead pedal. I want to get one for the gas pedal and do an extension too, so I can start working on my heel toe driving, which I'm terrible at. But again, I think that's pretty much it. Just do a quick walk around, and I apologize for how long this video was. Again, it's crazy how fast time will fly whenever you're talking about something you really enjoy. I've really enjoyed everyone else's videos. I'm sorry it took so long to get one made myself, but this is actually the third or fourth attempt. I can't remember, but I've enjoyed everyone else's videos and hope you've enjoyed mine and maybe learned something about Misfire that you didn't know before. And I certainly hope you stay tuned for future changes and see what's to come. And again, I really appreciate what everyone's done for me in the Miata community, and the relationship and friendships I've built in the 7 years now that I've been around the Miata community. It's honestly the best group of people I've had the pleasure of knowing in the car communities. They're always just so helpful and ready and willing to help each other out. So, alright guys, y'all stay safe.